Hello, it's Wednesday, which means happy hump day. Tough conversations, hard conversations. Perhaps there's one that you know that you need to have right now that you're putting off. You know, hard conversations, they're not fun. They're the conversations that we put off until the last possible minute, the conversations that we dread, the conversations that we worry and perhaps agonize about how they're going to go. And yet being able to have them, they're essential. They're a hallmark of a successful career and a successful life. It's really easy to convince yourself that shying away from those types of conversations is the good thing to do. But experience shows shying away doesn't mean the issue goes away. And it doesn't mean that you're going to end up with the outcome that you want. And in many cases, by not having the conversation, the outcome that you end up with will be worse. Because all you're doing is sending the issue underground. And eventually, it's going to bubble, it's going to stay there, and then it's going to rise to the surface. And often when it does, because it's festered, it's going to rise at a time that is inconvenient. It's going to arise at a time when you're not ready for the conversation. And perhaps the issue is going to be even bigger than if you'd stepped in earlier and had that conversation. It's also interesting to think that when you avoid tough conversations, you are stepping away from the opportunity to deepen and strengthen a relationship with that person. Now that might sound counterintuitive, but having real conversations with people, those really deep, tough conversations, that's at the heart of relationships that are genuine and are meaningful, because it's really easy to make assumptions about people, about their intent, particularly if it's in an organizational context and it's with someone at work that you have a relationship with that's hard. It's very easy to infer negative intent. It's very easy to make an assumption about why someone has done something. But often those assumptions about the person, about their intent, aren't correct. What we do when we have that open conversation is we're making that relationship matter to us. And we're also opening our hearts and our mind and building that path to a better relationship. Now, having a healthy relationship with someone at work doesn't mean you have to agree with them. And it doesn't mean that the relationship's always going to be easy. It does, however, mean that you take the time to see things from their perspective. You recognize that just as you have assumptions, they have assumptions too. And you also understand that every time that you step in and have those difficult conversations, you're learning about them, but you're also learning about yourself. And that broadens your perspective, it broadens your understanding, and it helps you recognize that it's important not to be closed to different opinions. And what's even better is when you're proactive, when you're the person who moves first, makes that step to build that relationship and deepen it, puts you in a far better position to navigate how the conversation is going to proceed. Now, I would suggest that when you're having a hard conversation, you don't go in ill-prepared. You think about it. You consider how you're going to approach the conversation, and you make sure that you're ready. And by that I mean mentally ready and emotionally ready. So you're going in with an open heart and you're going in with an open mind. Because when you go in unprepared, you're more likely to end up with that kind of crash through approach, which doesn't give you the outcome that you're looking for. So here are some principles that are worth considering as you plan your conversation. You want to enter the conversation with good intent, a genuine interest in the other person, a genuine desire to understand where they're coming from. You're really striving to ensure that the other person that you're talking with understands that you value them, that you value the relationship, and that's why you want to have the conversation. You're trying to drop assumptions about the other person so that you can walk in with a very open perspective on where the conversation will go and where they're coming from. You're curious. You're not going in judgmental with a judgmental perspective. You're curious about their perspective and their understanding. Where you can, you have the conversation face to face so that you have the opportunity to see and respond to how they're feeling and how they're reacting to things. You have the conversation at a time when you're not rushed and frazzled, because you need to be able to slow your mind down so that you're ready to reflect on what's going on so you can then respond wisely rather than react. And those reactions can happen when the conversation becomes emotional. That you are creating a space, a safe space for the other person to share and to feel that they're being heard. It's really important. They need to know that you're hearing what they're saying. You're clarifying what you're hearing so that when you've got that clarity, you are sure that you've heard what it is they are expressing. And that you're thinking about what it is that you want to say. What's your message? What's of concern to you? And you have thought about in advance how they might react to things, because that's going to help you be more prepared. You know, it was the esteemed management guru Peter Drucker who said, the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. And so when you go into these conversations, listen, open your heart and open your mind. Get curious about what's not being said. Because when you're curious about what you're sensing, when you're getting into that depth of the conversation and really feeling what's going on, then you're going to be in that better position to be able to build the relationship that you need, that long-term relationship, and get an outcome that works for both of you. Take care, and I'll see you next week.